Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Kabreb, bringing you the Roost Season 4. We are back to Draft League content. Let's go. So, basically, how this is going to work is this is the draft breakdown. We had a draft not long ago, as of the time of this video, it was about a week ago. And these are the mons I picked. So the way the Roost works is that they're low-tier draft league, so a bunch of Pokemon are, or a bunch of the lower-tier Pokemon, so stuff like Incineroar, Flygon, the stuff that are outshined by Salamence and Darmanitan aren't, like, Darmanitan and Salamence aren't in this, so those two Pokemon have the better chance of shining in this. So what's cool about that is that it gives the opportunity for these lower-tier Pokemon to shine and have a chance. So with this draft, I had the #1 overall pick, and that's pretty lucky. I'm usually not that lucky when it comes to draft. I'm usually middle. So I wanted to get something that I thought was just broken. It set the pace for my team, and it just genuinely helped. Like, in prep, it's super hard to prep for, and I went with Mega Sceptile. So now, Mega Sceptile is an 18-point Pokemon. It really, really hurts. Like, it's 110 base attack, 145 base special attack, and 145 base speed. This thing does 3 things for me. It gives me a great setup mon, because it gets Dragon Dance now. It gives me an absolute breaker with Leaf Storm. It gives me Earthquake even if I want to be physical. So I can do Earthquake, Leaf Blade. It gets Leaf Blade. Great physical Grass Stab. And we also get Outrage and Dragon Claw. So this mon is just really good. And even if I want to be special, I could be something a little more along the lines. It doesn't get Draco Meteor. That's one thing to note. It doesn't get Draco Meteor, which sucks. But it does get Dragon Pulse. It gets Leaf Storm, like I mentioned. It also gets some pretty good support moves. Like, I don't think I'm going to run Acrobatics. Crunch if I really need to break a Psychic type. So, like, say Bronzong, I could bring Crunch, and I could beat it. We have moves like Energy Ball if I don't want to be Leaf Storm. We get Leech Seed. Leech Seed Protect. This is probably going to be a set I'm going to bring a lot. Like, this type of set. Sure, also Giga Drain. Yeah, Giga Drain. Very good Pokemon. Swords Dance if I don't want to be Dragon Dance. Throat Chop, Thunder Punch, great coverage, X-Scissor, Rock Slide, even Toss if I want to be a bit more stally. I think this Pokemon is incredible. Has a lot of great options. Even down here, I see myself bringing a few things here potentially in the future. Especially some of these new moves like Breaking Swipe. I think those are super clean moves, and hopefully I get to use them at some point. Alright, next up. So, Mega Sceptile loses to one thing mainly, and that's Steel types. So instead of addressing that, I decided to go with something I thought was just also super broken in prep, and that's Swellow. Now, Swellow is super broken in prep because 2 reasons. It's 13 points, by the way, so 13. The reason why it's really broken in draft is it has 2 main sets, really. It has Guts, so Flame Orb Guts, and it can just run Facade. And since there is no hidden power in this league, so that's why I didn't mention hidden power on Sceptile. You can run cut moves, so I could also be like, we can run any cut move besides HP. So we could do Return. Return is allowed, but it also gets moves like U-Turn. So great momentum, and if I really wanted to. If I don't want to be this absolute breaker set of Guts, because Guts is broken, it's best 85 Guts, like a Pokemon like Heracross. The reason why Heracross was super, like, in this draft, was super sought after is because it has 125 base attack with Guts. So it's not as good as Heracross in that sense, but it does give me a flying type and a normal type early, which I really like my normal types, and I definitely like having a good flying type, a reliable flying type. It does get moves like Defog, Roost. Pretty sure it gets Roost. Yeah, it does get Roost. It gets Tailwind. in general, I think this is just a good Pokemon. It gets anything you really need. It's especially like this, alright? This is probably a set you're going to see a lot. I'm going to bring this a lot. I'm already telling you, for all the people watching that are in this league, you got to watch out for this, alright? Boom Burst, Stab Boom Burst. So, Boom Burst is absolutely broken. It's base 140 Stab. And even though it's just 75 attack, the Pokemon known for it the most is Exploud. That's only 91. It's not that big of a difference. Bit of a difference there. This thing's a lot more offensive and just fast pace. So already I'm drafting 2 really good offensive Pokemon. The reason why I don't mind this, by the way, because this is also would be walled by Steel types, is because it has Heat Wave. So really the only Pokemon that like I could say walling this is Bronzong with Heat Proof. But at the same time, if it's Heat Proof, then my Sceptile with Dragon Dance just beats it, or even just Sword Stance. Alright. My next pick, this was Wheel, obviously, so Sceptile was the first overall pick. It went all the way back. It's Snake, so the last player got to go twice. It came back to me, so I had Swellow. And I think a good Steel type in draft is important. If you don't have a good Steel type, your draft is at a disadvantage, unless it literally is a threat outside of that. A Steel type's super important, in my opinion, and I went with one of the better ones. I went with Empoleon. So what Empoleon gave me is a Water Steel type, Defiant, so it's a Defog deterrent. Not really, a little bit. This thing, I love Empoleon. It is the best defogger. If anybody understands that joke, you understand the joke. It's best defogger. One thing I did like about it, though, is that it's also a rocker. So it's a rocker and a reliable defogger. So I can run these 2 moves and on the same team. So I could just defog away rocks and then set up my own, which is super, super clean. I used it in Roost Season 2, I believe, and it was super, like, it was so good defensively. I think I brought offensive one time and it put in work. I think this Pokemon is incredible. It gets pretty decent coverage. It does lack some moves. Like, it doesn't get Roost, which is its biggest problem. Roost. It doesn't have Flip Turn, which kind of sucks. If it got Flip Turn, this thing would be really strong. Flip Turn Roost, this thing would be so good. But it does get support moves like Knock Off. It gets like Drill Peck, Earthquake. Gets Priority and Aqua Jet. And it also doesn't get Iron Head, which, you know, I don't even think it gets Metal Claw. Oh, it gets Metal Claw. So if I really need to be physical, I can at least do that. But it does get Flash Cannon. Flash Cannon. So this set right here, and then probably like Chople or something, like leftovers. This thing is gonna be super strong. It's on paper, it looks alright. It gets pretty decent defensively. And I really value the Steel type, and it was a good Water type. Since all the good Water types were gonna go at this point, I wanted to take my Steel and a Water, and Empoleon just filled all the check marks for me, pretty much. I'm pretty sure Empoleon was 14. Alright, next up. I had to wait for it to come back around to me, so 2 rounds of picks went. And, I believe I was sniped of the fairy I wanted. Yeah, 1 pick before me, Aromatisse went. And I wanted Aromatisse because it's a good Wish Passer. And I didn't, since I have Swellow, I didn't think I could get a good fairy Wish Passer late. Normal Wish Passer late. So I wanted Aromatisse. And the problem with Aromatisse is it got picked 1 pick before me, which was super unfortunate. That snipe hurt. What I did was I decided to just take a Pokemon I'm comfortable with. It filled a nice speed tier for me. I went with Gardevoir. And Gardevoir, I had a run with it in Season 2. I picked it up. It got dropped last 2 weeks of the season. It got dropped because there was a replacement coach. Of Season 2, rather. And what I did was, it went off. Like, this thing, I ran Scarf, I think, every week. I ran Choice Scarf for, like, 4 weeks in a row with this thing. And I just clicked Stabs. This thing's Stabs are super hard to switch into. There's only 2 Pokemon in this whole thing that reliably switch into the Stab, and that's Skuntank and Drapion. Drapion was not drafted. So Gardevoir is just super good. It does get Momentum now. I don't believe it gets Baton Pass, but it does get Teleport. So, like, if I really want to run Bulky Gardevoir, which is a set I have ran before, bit of, like, max HP, bit of speed, maybe, and, like, this, I've ran something like this before in another league with Mega Gardevoir. It's super good. It's a Wish Passer still. It's not the best Wish Passer. I think I would use it more as a healing Wish Passer to heal up like Mega Sceptile. But overall, this thing is just still super strong. Focus Blast beats Steel types. Even if I want to knock off items, Memento, I think all of these moves are super strong and definitely going to be a good Pokemon for me. Next up, we have a Wheel Pick, right? And I still notice at this point that I'm still struggling with Steel types. Like, none of these particularly beat Steel types. And I wanted to fill a bit of a niche role, which was a slower Pokemon, because my slowest Pokemon right now is Empoleon, that's base 60. And instead of doing that with a really slow fighting type, because I don't really like too slow fighting types, I like a bit of a mid. I'm a big fan of like Girder and stuff. Those are Pokemon I really like. So this is one I've always wanted to try, and it's Surf-Edged. Now Surf-Edged is absolutely broken. It has 135 base attack, it gets close combat, it gets scrappy so it can hit ghost types, so it really doesn't have a reliable switch in, besides flying types. I think this thing's biggest weakness is flying types. I'm pretty sure it gets Rock Slide, does it not? No. So this thing's best check is a flying type. And you know what my flying type switch in is? Empoleon. So that's pretty good. Plus, you know, I don't think most flying types want to be smacked. Like, they're going to get smacked by something. This thing gets super good moves. Close combat's like two-hitting the entire metagame. Like, if you're flying normal like this is getting O-code by Surf-Edged. Close combat, especially if I'm Choice Banded. Choice Banded Surf-Edged is super strong. It gets priority, good priority too, first impression. 90 base priority, but I can only click it once, which is fine, because if the switch in is a flying type, I then pivot Empoleon and just slit rocks. Click rocks, click Ice Beam, click knockoff. So I already have a bit of a plan for this. Close combat, first impression. If I need Brave Bird, I have it. If I need Leaf Store or Leaf Blade, I have it. I have Poison Jab for fairy types. It does get Steel Wing if I don't want to run Poison Jab for like Poison Resist Berry. Gets Throat Chop. I don't think I'd ever run Throat Chop over Knockoff though. I think removing items is super important. This thing gets some other things like Grassy Glide. I don't think I'm ever going to run that, but maybe I will one day. If I face a Grookey, which I don't think, or Thwackey. I don't think Thwackey got drafted, but still, if someone picks it up, I think it definitely could. It does get SD2, so SD is super, super strong. If this thing gets plus 2, it's kind of game over. It gets a kill. Like, not a lot of flying types are switching into this thing, especially because a lot of the low-tier ones are not as strong defensively. There's no, like, steel flying types that wall this thing. This thing is super strong. It really only has one weakness, is its speed, but that's fixed by a Choice Scarf or even, like, some other options. Like Tailwind, like I mentioned earlier. I could run Tailwind on this. I would not be opposed to that. Tailwind, U-turn into this thing, and then click a button. That would be ideal. Surf-Edged was 10 points, so I still feel like that's worth it. 10 points, Surf-Edged. It does just so much damage. It's super strong, and this is going to be like a breaker for me. I have this as more of a cleaner, this as a breaker of sorts, wall, and then this could be just more of an offensive tool. Now, this is just the main breaker of the team, though. Next up, I had a ground type pretty much from the start. I thought this Pokemon is super slept on. I think it's a great rocker. I like having good ground type. I think good ground types are super important. If you don't have good ground type, your draft is flawed. Trust me, I've used like Sandslash. Like, Sandslash is good in this, don't get me wrong, but in like regular draft, Sandslash is not always the greatest. It loses to a lot of the things it's supposed to check. But this gives me two things. It gives me a pure Fidef, or mostly pure Fizdef wall. It does get quite a bit of Spidef, so it's not bad at that role. It gives me a great rocker. It doesn't get Toxic, which sucks because it's a Gen 8 Pokemon. It does get Toxic Spikes, which is really nice. It gets Stealth Rock, it gets Will-O-Wisp, it gets Earthquake. Earthquake just such a good move. It does also get Poltergeist. So not a lot of Pokemon besides flying normal types, and I have one of the best flying normal types allowed, was really going to switch into this thing easily. This thing kicks, it's both its stabs. Like, this is a set it typically runs. Stealth Rock, Poltergeist, Earthquake, Will-O-Wisp. This thing checks fighting types, which fighting types are pretty decently strong. I mean, my flying type's neutral to it. I have a Gardevoir that switches in, but those don't appreciate poison jabs. Or she doesn't... It? She? I guess it could be male, but she. Anyways, it kind of just blankets a lot of fighting types besides knockoff, but I could just easily be Colbur Berry. This thing is so good with resist berries. It's so good with anything. I could even run like Resto Chesto. This thing is pretty good at that too, because it just takes so many hits. This thing is such a good Pokemon. For 7 points, I felt like it was really good. It doesn't even need to run like 252, 252. It can definitely run some attack and be like this, and be a little good. Oh, one more thing. It's also a Trick Room setter. So there was another reason I wanted the Aromatisse, because Aromatisse is also a Trick Room setter. But this one is probably, if I was going to run Trick Room on Sirfetch'd, this would definitely be the Pokemon to set it with. Alright, so next up, the story here is I came home from work. It was like 8.5 hours plus of work, physical labor work. I was out in the sun and I was exhausted. I had a migraine when I came home, and I needed a fire type. I loved a fire type on this, a good fire type. And Libero's Reboot was 4 points. This was one of the two oversights the mods and I myself had, was that Reboot was 4 points with Libero. So what Libero does is it's basically protein, so stuff like Gunk Shot is stab, High Jump Kick is stab, U-Turn is stab, and it gave me a good speed tier of 94. So this 94 speed tier put it above Gardevoir and in between my Swellow. Now the reason why I say this was a bit of a panic pick is because I had this thing in mind from about this point when I had Gardevoir. I was like, yeah, okay, I could take Sirfetch'd, then probably do Runerigus plus one more. I only had Runerigus planned, and I had 5 minutes left on my timer by the time I got home. So I just panic picked Reboot. It wasn't a bad pick, it just was a bit early. This thing is just really good though. It doesn't, like, Cinderace is a good Pokemon, so this thing is also really good, especially because Libero for 4 points. This was a value pick, really. Alright, so next up we have Galvantula. So Galvantula was the original plan, right? I wanted Galvantula and I wanted Webs. The reason why I wanted Webs is because I wanted to spam Specs Boomburst. I wanted to spam Choice Specs Gardevoir, so I didn't have to run Scarf. And I also have a Sirfetch'd that really appreciates the other team being -1. So I thought Webs was pretty cool. However, I did not want Webs. I did not want Galvantula to be my web setter. Now, Galvantula is super good offensively, too. But I wanted, I really wanted Vikavolt, because Vikavolt really gave me that Trick Room option I was looking for earlier with this. And I thought this is where I should have picked Vikavolt, then picked the Reboot. But because I made this panic pick, I had to go with this. And the only reason I want this is because 145 base special attack and under Trick Room is just super strong with momentum. Vikavolt doesn't have a safe switch in because both its stabs literally beats everything. It also, and if you say a ground type, it gets Energy Ball. So it just kind of clicks Energy Ball if it's life. Or this thing is like, this thing would have been so cool. But I got Galvantula. But I don't mind Galvantula. I've used it before. Sticky Web is a just good move in general. It's really good. I'm not Webs reliant, which is good. This thing, one thing it has over it is it can run Thunder reliably because it has Compound Eyes. So it has a very slight chance of missing. It gets Volt Switch. I believe it doesn't get U-Turn if I really wanted to be like pivoting on the ground types. But this also gets Energy Ball. So Energy Ball is also really good. So I get Thunder, Energy Ball, and Bug Buzz. So I get 3 really good moves. These 3 moves cover like everything. There's no switch into this. Like, no reliable switch into this. Like, it hits everything neutrally or super effectively. And just with Webs, I think it's a great setter. I think it's great late game. Its speed is also really nice because it puts something above Reboot. At the end, it wasn't that big of a deal. It worked out. It put something over the Reboot tier. And, yeah, I'm happy with the pick. Galvantula was 11 points. It was the same as Vikavolt. So, next up, there was a bit of foreshadowing earlier. I went with Skuntank. I love Skuntank. It is one of my favorite low tiers in draft ever, because the way Poison Dark works, it has one weakness, like it's ground types. And you know what my top tiers beat? Ground types. I love ground types against this team. Like, the only thing that sucks is Empoleon is weak to it, and the rest of it really, like, this checks ground types if I really need it to. This especially just hard switches in and then clicks Leaf Storm or stabs. So Skuntank for me was really good. I liked it a lot because it was defog. It's a great defogger. If you look at my team right now, I have one defogger, and that is a two defoggers, sorry, Empoleon and Skuntank, and then a third in Swellow, but I don't know if you count that. This thing gets nasty plot, so it is offensive. It can be. Its stats are just average, but don't get that wrong. It's such a great assault vest user. It has Sucker Punch. It doesn't get knockoff. It doesn't get knockoff, and it doesn't get toxic spikes. But I have toxic spikes elsewhere, so I'm not too concerned about it this time. It does get. It could be physical. It could be special. It gets all the dark and special coverage besides knockoff. It also gets Pursuit. Pursuit is allowed in this league, so Pursuit is going to be ran a few times if I need to check a Psychic type. This thing beats any Psychic type I really need it to do, and it's such a reliable defogger. I couldn't pass this up, especially where I got it. This thing is good, especially with Aftermath Rocky Helmet. If I say need to check a triple Axelmon, and this is my switch in, it's super, super strong, and I think it was a good pick at the time, especially because it's one of the only Gardevoir like reliable fairy checks that doesn't lose to like Psychic. Like Fairy can beat a lot of fairies get like Mystical Fire, Focus Blast, stuff like that, and Psychic types lose to the Dark types. So this type matchup versus Psychic types, I basically took it. It checks Gardevoir, and Drapion didn't get drafted, so this is the only one, and I have it, which is perfect. It was 7 points. It was worth it. This is where I started to regret the Galvantula pick. Not in the bad way. I still love Galvantula. However, I wanted another removal and a nice type, and I went with Cryogonal. So Cryogonal is 105 speed, while this is 108, so it's slightly slower. But I really valued this as a Rapid Spinner. It does get Defog as well, but I don't know if I'm going to run Defog at all. I think Rapid Spin is just a better move, especially because it gives +1 speed now. This thing gets Recovery, gets Recover, its moves aren't great, but it does get a lot of support, like Knockoff. I'm pretty sure it gets Reflect. It does get Reflect and Light Screen. It gets Poison Jab if I really want to run that. Triple Axle. I don't think I'm ever going to run anything besides Knockoff, though, and like special Ice-type moves, or maybe Ancient Power, because I feel like it does Flash Cannon, too, to beat other Ice-types if I think an Ice-type's to switch in. But I think this thing's best role is like either Heavy Duty Boots or Leftovers. And it's Recover, Toxic, and like Protect. This is like its best set. This is a set I'm going to run a lot. Like, even if it's not Knockoff, it's like Rapid Spin. And if it's not Toxic and Protect, it's like Freeze Dry or something like that. It gets Freeze Dry to beat the water types as well. So, overall, this thing's just a great Spadefmon. My only Spadef real Pokemon was, like, Assault Vest Skuntank, which I don't, like, I used that last season, and I didn't want to run Assault Vest all the time. It was really conflicting. My only other one is Empoleon, and this thing, I don't want it to just be Spadef every week. I think it needs to be Fizdef sometimes. And I think Cryogonal is a good Pokemon. I think it's slept on. I think everyone, like, looks at it, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's just a garbage Pokemon, but it's actually really good. It's hard to prep for in a way because you can't really prep for offensive, and it's hard to prep for defensive with most teams. Like, this set right here can break a lot of teams if you give it the chance to. So I'm definitely not opposed to this thing. It definitely helps, even if it's like the same speed tier pretty much as Galvantula. If I could ever get Vikavolt, I will get Vikavolt over Galvantula, but however, that's not how it is right now. And last but not least, I had 4 points left over. And I had one role I needed to fill. Like, this team misses one thing, and that's reliable wish passing. A lot of my team appreciates wish passing. I have Runerigus, who loves having wishes. It already has low HP, so something with high HP wish passes to just heal this thing to full. I needed a good Cleric. Pretty sure this doesn't get Aromatherapy or Heal Bell. I'm pretty sure my only Cleric right now is this with Heal Bell, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure it gets Heal Bell. Yeah, it gets Heal Bell. I'm pretty sure that was it. And, I went with Wigglybuff. Now, Wigglybuff, wasn't my original plan. Since I had 11 points at the Cryogonal pick, and I didn't really know where to go, and I had a friend tell me that, hey, get Cryogonal, it's good removal, and it gives you Spadef. So I'm like, okay, what should be my, 4-point Pokemon for, my 4-point Pokemon as my last one? I wanted a Wish Passer. There wasn't really any there that interested me. The only one I could have went with, other than this, was Lickitung. Now, the problem with Lickitung is I love Lickitung, and it's good. It's an Eviolite Pokemon. So I'd have 2 NFEs, which non-fully evolved Pokemon, which is fine. I've done that before. However, I felt like just getting something that can run leftovers, even heavy-duty boots, was just better. Especially with this team where I need, like, recovery and, like, really good recovery, like base HP recovery. So I got Wigglytuff, which is insane. It has 140 base HP. I used this thing a couple seasons ago. It wasn't great. I dropped it for the Gardevoir, which Gardevoir is a better Pokemon. It is 2 repeat types, but however, I'm only missing like Rock. I'm pretty sure. Only missing Rock type. And the only Rock type I would have taken was Sudowoodo, and we all know how much I love Sudowoodo, so with the last 4 points in my last team slot, I went with this. It's a Wish Passer. It clicks Toxic. It gets great coverage. Although I think the only cover I'm going to run is like Seismic Toss Knockoff, because those are its 2 best moves. It does, pretty sure it gets Calm Mind. No, I'm incorrect about that. Does get Work Up. Does get Work Up if I wanted to run offensive 1 week. Although I do see this being more like this, really. This is going to be more like this type of set, like 36 HP or something like this. Like this is going to be the set you run most of the time. Its only downside is that its stats are pretty meh. Like this, it's good to have a lot of HP. Like Chansey does it pretty good, but it's a pure Spadef Pokemon while it's at it. And then you got like a lot of other Pokemon with high base HP, like what's it called? Wow, brain fart. Psychic Trapper thing. Wobbuffet has high base HP, but it's a Trapper, right? It has different niche. This thing also sets rocks. It's whoops. What did I just do? Okay, I'm gonna refresh that. Sorry about that. It is a Stealth Rocker. So now I have a Rocker in Empoleon, a Rocker in Runerigus, and a Rocker in Wigglytuff, and all 3 are really reliable Rockers. This thing also gets Teleport as well. So I have 2 Teleport Pokemon, which I think Teleport is busted. It's just straight busted. Teleport is, with -6 priority, it makes everything better. Especially if I want to run bulky Gardevoir or a bulky Wigglytuff 1 week and just pivot out. I don't have to bring Wish every week. I think Wish is, when a team, if you look at a team and you say, oh, it needs Wish, sometimes you're wrong. I think this team offensively, like, it does get some pretty good recovery options. The only thing that really appreciates it is Empoleon and Rune. So those 2 Pokemon together are really all I care about. So yeah, that's basically the team. I hope you guys enjoyed this draft breakdown. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. And make sure to subscribe, because I'm going to be recording every single battle, hopefully. Whether that's post-com or live-com. It's probably going to be mostly post-commentary, because I usually play on my phone late at night. So I'll just use the replays for that. Definitely subscribe. And thank you, GlitchX City, for the music I used throughout this video. And if anything else, nope. See you all next time. Peace out. Later.